Greetings, goblins and ghouls, and welcome to the Lit Review. I am very excited, as per usual, to be doing a themed readathon, and this one is Summerween. This readathon is going from today, when I'm starting filming here, on Monday, the 24th of August, to the 31st of August, and this readathon is hosted by Olivia, Olivia Reads a Latte, and Gabby from Gabby Reads. I will link their channels down below. You should absolutely check them out. They are just superstars as far as I'm concerned of BookTube. They give great recommendations, have wonderful personalities, and if you follow them, you know that they are really into thrillers, spooky, just like all kinds of kitsch, and you know that they are big fans of Halloween, so this is a real mood for them. And honestly, it's a real mood for me too. I love Halloween so much. Though I would say that maybe I'm a little bit more cutesy Halloween than like thriller spooky, because I'm a chicken. Yeah, I am. I'm a big chicken. So we're gonna see how this readathon goes, but there are, 5 challenges total for this week of the readathon. I am not gonna put too much pressure on myself to finish all of them, but we'll see how far I can get. This just seemed like a really cool thing to participate in, and it got me in like the fall vibes, which is really funny because I realized that I haven't left the house all summer. And that scared me, so that seemed thematically appropriate because summer's almost over. Anyway, so the 5 challenges for this readathon are: number 1, read a book with a creepy cover. This is going to be a real challenge for me because, as I said, I am a chicken. I do not own a lot of things that would creep me out. So we're going to see how that goes. Number 2, read a supernatural or paranormal book, and I do have plenty of those, particularly in the romance genre, so maybe I'll be able to sneak in a little bit of that for this readathon, which is exciting. Witches. Number 3, read a book with a haunted house. Number 4, read a book in the dark. So this one is actually a physical challenge within the readathon, and you can do that with any of the books that you choose to read. And then number 5 is to read a book recommended by one of the hosts, in this case either Olivia or Gabby. And they have both done TBR videos. They have both done specific recommendations within their separate announcement videos. So I have a whole list of books. The trick for me is I don't own any of them. So we're gonna see what I can get a hold of in this short time period, and this may be one of the challenges that I just physically can't get to. I am going to maybe do it my way a little bit and do something a bit more cute for at least one of these. Because challenge number 3, read a book with a haunted house, immediately reminded me of this thing that's on my priority shelf back here. And it's a middle grade book, Nightmares, by Jason Segel and Kristen Miller. So you can see from the cover, which is shiny and fun, that there looks to be a spooky house. So even though I don't know for sure that this is a haunted house, this definitely has kind of a vibe, of a haunted house vibe. I did get this personalized, I did get this signed. This is also on my These Books Will Self-Destruct list, so I'm really happy to be able to knock that out and that it fits so well for this readathon. So Charlie is our hero, and he, in the description, sounds like he's got a couple of problems. The first being that he thinks his dad married a witch, and the second being is that they've had to move into her very creepy house. And he thinks it's not a place that you would want to find yourself after dark. And he can't remember the last time sleeping wasn't even a nightmarish prospect. So kids got insomnia. It's relatable. This is the first book I'm going to pick up for Summerween. It's really cute. Hopefully it will go pretty quickly. I haven't read a ton of middle grade, so this will be a bit of an adventure for me. Maybe it will inspire me to dive more into this genre. But this is pick number 1. And then, to kick this readathon off, if you have watched any of my vlogs in the past, you know vlogs and digital diaries are where I like to celebrate milestones when they happen, and today we're celebrating 2. Every time I hit a milestone of 100 more subscribers, I recommend to you 4 small booktubers that I think you should check out as a way to continue to spread the love and joy in this community, because this, honestly, since I started this channel in April, it has been one of the biggest delights of my life. So just I just love this channel and this community that we're growing together. So thank you for being here. So I really want to share today with you. I'm going to have 8 for you because since I last checked in with you, we have hit 700. I think when I checked today, I was at 740. So maybe by the time this video goes up, we'll have even more, but I'm so glad for each of you that are here, that leave comments, that just like hang out and talk. It's so nice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So all of these booktubers have under 5,000 subscribers, which is what I'm qualifying as a small channel. And they are people that I have either been following for a while, or some of them are more new to me, but I've just been absolutely captivated by their content and want to shout them out and share them with you. So the first one is Spencer from Intentionally Bookish. I found her actually through Jess at Peace Love Books XO. Jess recommended her and I have immediately fallen for Spencer and her channel. It is a delightful mix of like cozy mysteries, thrillers, romance, and Spencer's personality is so lovely. I love listening to her voice too. She is just soothing. Her content is soothing and it makes me giggle and it's just lighthearted and happy. And she's really inspired me to check out more of her like cozy mystery genre that she's identified. So go check out Spencer's channel. Highly recommend. We'll give you all the good feels. The next person I'd like to recommend to you is Jess from Books Past Bedtime. And Jess is somebody that I would recommend to you if you find yourself liking a lot of the readathons that I participate in. I would highly recommend Jess and her channel to you. We tend to participate in very similar readathons, and yet we often have very different picks or sometimes different takes on the same book. And I think that's super exciting. So like if you want to kind of get a different take on some of the stuff that you know you like from this channel, highly, highly recommend Jess. She is also just really transparent and thoughtful and really has a like cozy, calm aesthetic as well. So just like go get it. And then I would love to shout out Paige from the PM Reader. This is a channel that I have found my way to somewhat recently, but I just feel like Paige has a good energy to her videos and is really like dedicated to putting out content. Again, Paige does a lot of cool readathons, a lot of fun tags, and really just comes at every video with a lot of enthusiasm and joy. So I think you would enjoy her channel. Then somebody that I'm happy to recommend to you because she has just kind of like made a grand return to BookTube is Kayla from On the Fritz. And I found Kayla back around the time that I had started my channel. I really loved that she would like dye her hair while talking to you about books. Like she would just like let you into her life. And she kind of went away for a little while, which, you know, happens. This is a awesome hobby, but it can take a lot of time and energy. But I'm so glad that Kayla is back. She has been participating in like things like the historical romance readathon and has really been a great source of like romance and romantic thrillers, things like that. So like go check her out if you like those kinds of videos and book recommendations. The next channel I am thrilled to recommend to you is actually a duo, and they have the channel together. It is Esme and Famke from Bookish Buddies. I really love that this is a kind of like duo run channel, and I know that they each kind of have their own reading preferences that you get to see in things like their TBRs or their wrap-ups, but they're also really good friends and you can feel that friendship bond between the two of them. Esme in particular does a TBR game that is really a lot of fun, and she has some killer prompts on her channel. So like if you, again, always going to recommend people with TBR games to you because I know you love them and I love them too. I can never get enough of them. Like anytime there's more, I'm happy to have it. And then I would like to recommend to you Jaleesa from The Name's Jaleesa. This is a channel that I started following recently, and Jaleesa's sense of humor is just perfection. She makes me laugh so much, and she has just such like a natural, witty sense of humor, and I love the type of books that she reads. She reads a bunch of romance and fantasy, and I'll a bunch other too, but that's just the kind of stuff I gravitate towards. But I really adore her content and just vibe with her sense of humor so well. So I hope that you go check out Jaleesa's channel. I would also, in the vein of romance, I know I'm kind of leaning hard on that genre with these recommendations, but that's what I've been craving lately. So a lot of the channels that I've been consuming have been pro-romance. And that would be Lisa from Remarkably Lisa. She is one of the hosts of the Historical Romance Readathon and really puts out fun romantic-oriented content. I also just really like her personal style. So she rocks a red lip, and it's inspiration, it's everything. So go check out Lisa's channel. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to recommend with you Samantha from Books with Samantha. Samantha has a really effervescent personality and does a great job of recommending things like romance. Again, found her through the old romance genre, but she also has really amazing eye makeup, and I know that's not like purely her content, but it just draws me in and like makes me want to know more about her, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her as a recent subscriber, and I hope you do as well. So those are my 8 recommendations to celebrate 2 milestones to getting me to 700 plus subscribers. So again, thank you all for being here. I hope that you've enjoyed your time and will continue to do so. I really do love this community that we're building together. So thanks for being a part of it, and go check out those wonderful, wonderful people and support them as well. So yeah, I will check in with you again when I get through some of Nightmares. All right, so it is now Wednesday. I believe that is August 26th for the Summerween readathon, and I have finished my first book. I meant to check in with you yesterday, but I just did not feel like getting out of my pajamas and doing a whole thing, so sorry. But I did finish Nightmares by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. I've said Kristen in my last check, and honestly I'm not 100% sure which is which. I also want to call out the illustrator, whose name is down here. It says that it is illustrated by Carl Kwasny, and the reason I want to call Carl out in a good way is because the illustrations in this book were really fun and impactful. Overall, I would say the book has a really strong, like, creepy vibe, and in part that's because of all the art in here. So you can see, like, hopefully, like, every page has a little spider dangling down from the number, and then let me see, chapters always have like this really pretty framed art, and there's usually some type of bug, which to me is very creepy and very spooky. And then here's one of my favorite illustrations. It's one of the nightmares that Charlie encounters throughout his journey, and they are just vicious bunnies that are all teeth, nothing else on the face. And so like the illustrations were really, really lovely. I don't give star ratings in my vlogs or digital diaries, as you already know, but I can tell you that this was a really fun romp. I do not know, as somebody who has not really delved highly into middle grade, you know, if I will be continuing with this series, because this is book 1 in a series. It was a really delightful read, and there were a lot of things that I ended up loving about this, but I'm just not sure if it's a age range that really resonates with me at this point in time. That doesn't mean I couldn't be convinced otherwise, but you know. But let's talk about what went really well. So again, beautiful cover, and I also just really want to show off like the end pages, again, those creepy bugs, and then the inside cover also has some foil creepy crawlies as well. So this is just a really pretty hardback edition. But one of the things that I really respected about this novel was how it dealt with issues of grief and depression. And you know I really care about those kind of topics on this channel, and I think this is a great book for dealing with those topics, because they really put, the authors really put feelings wrote them in a really sensory way so that you could connect. You really felt what the characters were feeling, and both in a good and a bad way, because it really gave grief and depression and fear like more than just the words, and I thought that was really impactful. And they also really normalized those conversations within the world, within the characters. For instance, one of Charlie's friends, Paige, has a mom who, it's alluded to, deals with depression and is often hospitalized for her depression. Even though they don't name depression outright, you can definitely read between the lines and figure out that that's what's happening to Paige's mom. It's not a huge part of the story, but the fact that it's a normal part of Paige's existence and that her friends understand and support and just like not understand not only what is happening to her mom, but what happens to Paige when her mom gets hospitalized is so impactful. Like the empathy and the compassion and like the visceral ways that feelings are described were so good. I would say for me, I've mentioned before, I'm a chicken. There are still some things in here that even though this is a middle grade book, I was like, ew, gross. I don't, like there's a lot of creepy crawlies and like kind of gross things. Maybe not entirely my cup of tea, but I really enjoyed this for those emotional descriptions and like the journey that Charlie goes on, both in the adventuresome sense of delving into the netherworld, but also the emotional journey that is a huge part of his story. You can tell from the inside of the cover that he is dealing with grief because it mentions that his dad recently remarried. I also think this is a great book for those kind of conversations, maybe between kids and parents. Although I am not a parent myself, I could see a lot of instructional value in this because, you know, when a parent dies and the other parent remarries, that's a lot of complicated emotions. So like death of a parent is definitely a big part of this, although I would say it's handled very lovingly, very graciously. And then the conversations and the potential antagonism that the kid might feel for the new step parent is definitely all a part of this, and it's handled really well, and it's really fun. Even the nightmare characters are really interesting and what ends up happening in the netherworld. You know what this actually reminded me a lot of, in a way? It reminded me a lot of Halloween Town. So if you are a 90s baby and we're all in on Halloween Town, I actually think this would be a great read for you. Okay, so for the Summerween of it all, this definitely counted as my haunted house book because the mansion in here, while not typically haunted with ghosts, is a portal into another world and is a big, scary house. So I'm gonna count that for haunted house. I have a couple more challenges to tackle and I have some time to do it. So we're gonna try to get 3 books into this readathon. So last month I had started to read a book and kind of put it down, but I didn't get very far into it. So I think I'm gonna try to wrangle it back in for this readathon. And that is Lydia King's Opium and Absinthe. Now I am reading this as an ebook, so you will see a cover here. I am going to use it for the Summerween prompt of read a supernatural or paranormal book. So it's kind of a mystery, and the main character becomes increasingly convinced that there are vampires and that a vampire killed her sister. So whether or not they're actually vampires, there's still the paranormal tag when I look on the Goodreads tags on the right hand side, so I'm gonna count it. And then I'm not really sure what to do for creepy cover because none of the books that are on my radar for this readathon have like super creepy covers. I think this is like the closest I'm gonna get realistically because, you know, there's like a spooky mansion and it's intimidating and dark, so it's like, it's kid creepy, but it's still, you know, I think it still probably counts for a creepy cover. So hopefully I'll be able to check in with you soon on that and give you an update and maybe read in the dark with you. Hello friends, it is now Friday, August 28th on this Summerween adventure, and I just wanted to check in with you real briefly. I am about like a quarter of the way through Opium and Absinthe by Lydia King. I took a little bit of a reading break from that in order to finish one of my books for Litland, Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know by Samira Ahmed, and then back to Lydia King and Opium and Absinthe. And I'll check in with you hopefully tomorrow with more news about Opium and Absinthe. Hi friends, it is August 31st, which is the last day of the Summerween readathon, and so I'm overdue for a check-in with y'all. So kind of like middle of the day yesterday, I finished Opium and Absinthe. I've been reading a lot this month because of the various readathons I'm participating in, and I don't know if it's just that I've been participating in too many things or what, but I've had a run of kind of like, not bad books, I wouldn't say I'm in a reading slump, but they're just kind of like, meh. You know, they're not bad. They're just, not the sort of thing that I want to shout to the rooftops about. And without giving a star rating, I think that's where Opium and Absinthe falls for me. There were things about the book and the reading process that I just wasn't in love with, and then there were some things that I really enjoyed, so it's kind of a middle of the road book for me. Something I've started doing a lot is making sure to read author's notes, because I found that if the author cares enough to leave a note about a specific portion of their overall novel, it's because they feel really strongly and really passionately about the contents therein. So when I read the author's note from Lydia King within Opium and Absinthe, you can tell about kind of the connections she was making as an author in terms of, like the Newsies strike in I think 89 or 99, as well as the release of Dracula in that same year, and that a lot of her kind of what ifs about this book came from that unity point within this space. What I will say is that this had a really strong kind of mystery bent to it, or an undercurrent of a mystery. And I did not see the particular person coming in terms of the whodunit. So that was good. But I do feel like it was a really slow mystery in that regard. So it wasn't quite like an action-packed thriller. It wasn't quite like a quick following of clues. It was much, much more about Tilly and her progress. I would say this book does deserve some trigger warnings that hopefully shouldn't shock you given the title of the novel. We are dealing with opiate use, so a lot of drug use, a lot of drug abuse even. In the synopsis of the novel, I'm not spoiling anything by saying this, but in the synopsis of the novel, we do find out that Tilly's sister Lucy dies in the early portion of the book, so there is grief, and so that grief and the drug abuse gets really intertwined, and there are some healthy conversations in minor ways about the connection between those two things, but it almost felt a little bit like drug tourism to me, like you were really experiencing Tilly's take on opium, morphine, absinthe, not as a drug, but the potential hallucination or loose-limbed feeling that absinthe was very famous for, and then heroin. So it was a real testament to how easily it is to get addicted to things, and I think that was the point that the author was trying to make, is that even good people can get really sucked into this as a coping mechanism, as just an ease of pain, but it wasn't that pleasant for me to read about. I wouldn't say that that's one of my biggest triggers, but just that for me it was a little too much. But with my last day, so last night, I started Mexican Gothic, which is naked, but Mexican Gothic. I took the dust jacket off in the other room, but this is by, Mexican Gothic is by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this has been getting a ton of hype on BookTube. So I started this late last night and then stopped myself before it got too spooky, because this is definitely a haunted house, eerie, creepy, gothic vibe of a book already. I am about, how many pages am I in? I'm about 120 pages into it, and I think I'm going to try to finish this today and have this be my last book for the Summerween readathon, because this Mexican Gothic was one of Gabby from Gabby Reads. This was one of her host recommendations, was Mexican Gothic, and while I'm going to do the exact opposite of one of the challenges, I'm going to try to finish reading this while there is still daylight out, because I'm already so sucked into the eerie, gothic, creepy vibes of Moreno Garcia's world that I think I'm going to scare myself if I try to read this at night. So it's going super fast though. It's a really fast-paced read. You are following a young socialite who has grown up in Mexico City and has got kind of a very glamorous persona. Her name is Naomi, and her father sends her to check on her cousin who is married, first of all, married into the Doyle family, who, the Doyle family have kind of like an Anglophile thing going on where the great uncle is very obsessed with like English legacy, and you find out that he's also like deeply invested in things like eugenics and like the perfect type of people. So in some ways it kind of gives me like Get Out vibes at where I'm at in the novel right now. But Naomi is sent to check on her cousin, who has kind of sent some very strange and odd letters back to her family. Where I'm at in the book now, she's starting to have, Naomi is starting to have nightmares, which Catalina says is where she started as well. So there's something about the house that is like old, decrepit, creepy. It kind of reminds me in some ways, maybe because the Doyles are Anglophiles who just like have a real obsession with English heritage and lineage. It reminds me of The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, which is a Gothic classic. It's a really small volume. If you're into like Gothic literature, highly recommend. But it's definitely a big creepy house, and she is having really intense nightmares. The people kind of creep her out. I'm really just captivated by this. This is not what I would normally call like my type of novel because I am such a scaredy cat, but I'm really, really sucked in, and you can see I'm not quite at the halfway point. I really want to try to finish this today. So I will do that and then hopefully wrap up with you. But I'm really loving where I'm at with this so far. It is just engrossing. I also have to say thank you to the publishers who sent me this book. It's the first thing I've ever gotten sent from a publisher, so I'm very, very grateful to have received this book, especially because I am loving it. So thank you to Del Rey, who is part of the Random House or Penguin Random House family of publishers. I promise to put the cover of your beautiful book back on so I can show that off at a later date. I'm gonna go find a patch of sunlight to read in so I don't scare myself too much. And hopefully I can wrap up Summerween with you. Hi. Okay, it is like 6:30 and I just finished Mexican Gothic. Put the dust jacket back on for you. Wow. This was such a quick and easy read. It was so compelling. Like I just felt myself being pulled through it, and I can't promise that I'm not gonna have nightmares later tonight because it was in fact very creepy. The name of this book is not lying to you. It is so much like a modern classic Gothic tale interwoven with the rich culture of Mexico and how it has tension and entwines with a more Eurocentric West. It's so good. Like you're getting me at like a very muddled state, but these are my extremely authentic responses to this book. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And I think I was saying the main character's name wrong. I was saying like the anglicized version of it, Naomi, but I think it's Noemi. Not entirely sure that my pronunciation is still correct, but I think it's Noemi. Either way, she's fantastic. Big fan. There's something about Moreno Garcia's writing that's very cinematic. So if you are the kind of person that really likes noir, that really likes thrillers or mysteries or like creepy kind of books, this feels almost like I was reading a movie. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, it was just so well done. Her writing is so good. It felt like that slow, compulsive march through a psychological thriller. What a great thing to end Summerween with. I can't believe I finished it. I'm just so, like, I still need to process this a little bit. It's so good. I did technically read in the dark, although you won't see any of that in this vlog. Most of my reading I do at night, except for today, when I turned into a big chicken and didn't want to read this very creepy book in the nighttime. So I've completed 4 of the challenges for Summerween, and just again, thank you to Olivia and Gabby, the hosts of Summerween. I really felt like I got to push my boundaries a little bit as a reader. So that's my read on Summerween 2020. I hope we get to see another one next year. But for now, thank you for spending the time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of me or this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!